nice dull ramp.
Alright, changed my mind. I'm not going back to the cave. There's a big swamp in there. I'm going to videotape that better on the way back out. And then this is where it drops down into the river. Right there. So I'm right near where those guys dropped over the bank with the kids. Oops. Down under the bush here. And saw what they saw. So, again, the direction over here now. Get this camera set up and I'll show you. Alright. So that's the direction. What is that on the lens? Nothing. So straight behind me goes to Strathcona Park, Comox Lake, Courtney, the old stomping grounds of the late great John Bendernagel, and many other people. It's funny. I remember when I was when I met him years ago. Man, we're talking 20 years ago. Crazy. And I went to a thing he put on at University of Victoria. Spoke to him a bit about what I had seen, my grandfather's seen, and some other people I knew. And then while I was talking to him on the phone before we went there, he was telling me he was on his way to Port Alberni to meet up with a couple. No, he had just come home after meeting up with two loggers in Port Alberni, and they both made him promise that he wouldn't share their names no matter what. And they wanted to tell him what they saw out here. Never forgot that. But anyway, yeah, so that's the direction to where all that crazy shit goes on. This trough. I'm in the middle of the trough right now. The mountain range to my left, the Beaufort Mountains are right over here to the left. The Stamp River is right below me. And I'm basically within, if I had to guess, 300 yards of where those guys seen that. What do you say is tan color? I sure think too I took note of is the majority of the sightings around here and towards Banfield where my boat is. Port Alberni, the majority of sightings is the red hair genetics. The red to brown to now tan. Rarely have I ever heard anybody saying black hair around here. It's always red or brown. Interesting, right? What do we got? Here we go again. Having a clue what I'm about to read, as usual. Sifting through the pile. Let's see if I can read this. It's getting brighter out. The reflections might make it too challenging without the readers. But don't forget, I forgot my readers. And it's not. I can't make the size of the font, the letters bigger. I can't on this for some reason out of my notes. Even if I turn it outside, it's still the same deal. Actually, this makes the sentences a little longer. I'll try that. Foot tapped while camping by Lake George in the Adirondacks, New York. Lookout, New York. I can't believe I have a story of my own, but I do. I haven't done much camping in my life. But one day, me and a friend decided to take off from the Buffalo area. Been to Buffalo, couldn't believe how many deer were on the highway just outside the city. Across New York to Lake George. Been there too, in the Adirondacks. Not sure why we haven't done it multiple times, but we finally decided to get out there. My friend was more of an outdoors newbie than me, but compared to most of our subscribers, I'm definitely a newbie. Most of your subscribers, I'm definitely a newbie. Anyways, I had to make sure we had everything, pick up a good spot to hike. I picked a good spot to hike. Everything worked out great, except while hiking, I noticed our water was getting low. So we shot straight down the mountain to the lake to refill. It literally felt like 3 hours. Up and down ravines, and you could see the damn lake right there through the trees. Don't you hate that? Been there. Luckily, I was smart enough to get the water purification tablets. Never used them before. Me neither. Not where I live, ever. Never even had to think about it. So after all that, we eventually pitched a tent, started and stared at the lake as the sun was setting. It was nice to see campfires and listening to people having fun. The weather was ideal. We both passed out as soon as our heads hit the pillows. At some point in the night, I shifted my body to get more comfortable. Everything was super quiet, except I heard somebody walking by our spot. I remember being kind of mad because nobody should be walking around our area that late at night. Made no sense. Can't we get any damn peace? I immediately thought it was a person because it sounded bipedal. Was it bipedal or bipedal? Whatever. I noticed that right away and ruled out a deer or a bear. It sounded like a heavy person walking a steady pace and not stopping. I think a bear would be more cautious and not have two legs, lol. It felt like a big guy with soft shoes just cruising by. I can't forget that sound. Anyways, my head was stuck to the pillow, and I was too exhausted to do anything. P.S. What can I do? Then my foot got tapped. It wasn't a small raccoon tap. It was a soft, small push on my foot like it was saying, hi, if that makes any sense. Somehow, it knew I was awake and where my foot was. It was a perfect subtle push tap like you would do to get someone's attention. Luckily, I was too tired to freak out or be scared. I smiled and mentally said, we mean no harm in leaving in the morning. I felt very peaceful and happy for some reason and went back to sleep within seconds. That sounds pretty crazy. The next morning, I told my friend what happened, but thought it could have been a deer or a bear. As my mind had time to put things together, I realized it was not a deer or a bear. It had two legs and sounded or felt like a heavy person with soft shoes on. It was walking by like we didn't exist, like it was on a mission. Maybe there was two of them, one cruising by as the other one came up to say hi. It was kind of torturous to have such an experience, but no way of proving it or know what it truly was, like reading a book but not making it to the end. I'll never forget the footsteps, but why would it be so brazen to tap on a human like that? Unless they can read your energy and they felt I was okay. Maybe they watched us during the day and wanted to be friends and go hiking together. Anyways, thanks for listening. So glad I found your channel. I love the scenery and amazing stories you share. I absolutely adore the pristine landscape you get to enjoy. Mind-blowing. Keep on hiking. Brad E. Okay, Brad, thanks, man. You've heard me say it before. If you're going out of your way to find this email address, you already know what it was. Well, let's get to mark another one as red here. Get ready to rip. Yeah, I don't know. We've had numerous people have emailed in somewhat similar of these things, knowing exactly what they're poking into when they go into the tent. So for me, thinking about what other people have shared with us and possibly taught us, is they have got to be able to see our energy. Got to be able to, probably looking down and seeing a perfect outline of your body, I would guess, through the material of the tent, your sleeping bag. I'll bet they are seeing us clear as day just from our energy that we emit. It's my guess. And that's probably how, if I could have any input at all. I don't need anything tapping on my foot when I'm in my tent, especially where I go. When I'm in a tent on the ground, it's always by myself in the tent, because I can't stand sharing a tent with somebody, just for the main reason of, if a bear jumps on my tent, I don't need somebody inside my tent with me getting stepped on too. I want them in another tent to pull their gun out and blow this thing off of my frickin' back, right? So, yeah, I always have a loaded gun with me, laying beside me with the barrel pointed down towards my feet. And if something taps me, it's going to get tapped back. A piece of the puzzle, possibly, is the title of this one. Hey, Steve, you can use my name. I don't give a rat's ass. I'm Raymond Paulin, age 67, from Berlin, New Hampshire, living in the Great North Woods region of the state. And you're a free man. A free man. Good for you. Great North Woods region of the state in northern New Hampshire. Love your agenda. Watch your channel every frickin' day. And I believe I don't require to see a savvy to know they're real. Have you seen God? Is he real? No contest. Anyway, my piece. Remember the many emails you received regarding people who have encounters with savvy alongside a friend. One person sees something and the other doesn't, or hears something but the other doesn't. Regarding that question, why? As many people know, our universe is and has been entering the age of Aquarius. All is shifting. And may have heard we're all beginning our ascension. That means our planet and everything on it is starting to vibrate at a faster rate. Our frequency is going up and or rising higher. Our consciousness is rising. Stop right there. Some people are moving forward or are more advanced, allowing them to see or hear past the 3D veil into the realm of spooky shit. Eventually we will see all reality. We surely have been lied to our whole lives. Oh yeah, it's all coming together thanks to you, Steve. You're living here. You are living here and now to your fullest. Yeah, brass balls. I too lived life to the fullest until I had a stroke 2 years ago. That was God's way to slow me down. I wish he could have just asked me instead. I was a kind of a workaholic. It's kind of funny how you do that to yourself and your body tells you to go F yourself and then shuts you down. I had that happen to me a few times in the past. I didn't and never hunted, but enjoyed fishing, snow and water skiing, hang gliding, and owning my own business for 24 years. God gave me a gift to create, specializing in fiberglass. The Topkasabe people are plentiful in New Hampshire. If you Google Granite State Sasquatch, it shows a map of the state with many pinned spots of all the locations. Thanks, Steve, for all you do. Please don't stop and watch your six. P.S. I'm subscribed to Sarah's channel. Awesome, very pretty. Regards, Raymond Paul. Okay, Raymond, thanks for that, man. You're a free man. My kind of people. Free man. All right, what else do we got? Oh, what's this? All right, here we go. Mark this as red. Quick glance around. No red hair afros or dreads looking at me. Maybe they're listening, maybe they aren't. I don't give a shit. Here we go. Steve, I proofread and added punctuation to the best I could. Okay, man, I got no readers and there's reflections, so I'll try to read it the best I can. I decided to walk down to the woods and hang up by the creek. I brought my flashlight, my machete, and my 10-year-old cousin. Shake my effing head. We walked 30 feet into the woods and stopped. My cousin was nervously babbling about who knows what. I heard something and palmed my light, shushed my cuz, and we opened our ears. We got down on one knee and listened to see if anyone was down here already. If so, we're leaving. If not, we would walk all the way down to the creek and stop. It sounded like a bunch of kids talking. We couldn't make out what they were saying or if it was kids talking, but it was something that sounded like talking. It's exactly how the guy described that happened right here. So I had a great idea. A way to maybe get a reaction and find out if we were alone. And the reason why I'm so paranoid about people down there is my cousin was just a kid. He was 10, not an outdoors type at all, and I was avoiding any kind of altercation from drunk underage teenagers. So I threw a pebble in their direction. Then a breathing growl right effing next to me happened. Someone was standing right there to my left that I didn't hear or see this whole time. This really shocked me. I felt like I stuck my finger in an electric socket. I was more surprised that I didn't know someone was right in front of us than scared. I would say I was startled. I couldn't see anymore. Just green leaves shaking some and my beam from my flashlight. What I could hear was breathing so heavy I could feel it. And I also felt he was just about to roar. It reminded me of the tigers at the zoo. The noises from them are so loud you feel the air in your chest vibrate, for lack of a better term. I felt my hair on the back of my neck and my arms stand up. I don't recall any smells. I immediately felt startled, and kneeling there I froze, then a panic to get my cousin out of the situation. I stepped up, grabbed my 10-year-old cousin's hand and said, "Okay, we're leaving," out loud, and we quickly walked out. We didn't run. I don't remember if I was asking him or talking about what just happened or not, but nowadays he's 17 and he doesn't remember any of this. No, I didn't see this being, but I heard him. I felt the vibration from how deep and loud he was, and there was something else going on down there with no flashlights in the dark. I did tell my aunt and friends about this weird story, and I can tell they think I'm making it up. How upsetting. I'm trying to confide in people I trust and convey how important, how strange this event was, and completely foreign to my life here in Philly, and they don't believe me. It's even worse. They think I'm totally making this story up for whatever reason. Probably, and I would think questioning my integrity and mental health. Something strange was going on in those woods, 5 minutes away from one of the biggest cities in the world, and we happened to be walking down there. Share my name is Jack Hartso. Hi, everyone. Get well soon, Edgar. Hello, Al, man, and Steve. If you ever want or need to clock out of sharing, I would gladly share the people's voice every day and make you proud. Thank you, Steve, for opening up my mind and thus enriching my heart and soul. Me and my cousin at night in the John Heinz Nature Reserve. Hey, man, appreciate the words you offer of help, and I mostly appreciate you sharing with all the people here, man. It's so frickin' important. And you did it, and it's helping immensely. That part I don't envy. You know, right, you guys, that part, especially for me, what I do, I don't even like to entertain the thought of something being within arm's length and breathing out and me feeling in my chest. That would be, you gotta wonder if that would be the straw that breaks the camel's back for continuing on alone in the woods around British Columbia, right? Oh man, everything's blurry. When I read without my readers and then try to look, it just is just full on blur. All right, what else do we got? Hello, Steve. Oregon bow hunter encounter. You start off with your name. I'm going to share it. My name is Matt Noss. K-N-A-U-S-S. I hope I pronounced it right, Matt. Bow season 91 started the first day of September. This time of year happens to be some of the best weather in Oregon. Well, best if you're not bow hunting. This year we had a very cold and damp summer, so I was happy we could just have fires and hopefully quiet ground to walk on. I was taking my nephew and his friend with me. They're going into their senior year of school, high school, so I had to have them back Monday morning. We left Portland Friday afternoon, heading into the Timothy Lake area in the Mount Hood National Forest. We arrived a little late to area I'd picked out to set up camp and unfortunately slept in late on Saturday morning. I assured my nephew and his friends that the best hunting would be in the evening and not to worry about it. Got to talk with a very friendly and informative state cop who was on fish and game duty. I led the two boys down to Dry Creek bed, dropping off my nephew's friend at a well-tracked game trail and my nephew, and continued on our way. After about a mile, we came across an area where an underground stream was bubbling, forming several large puddles. We decided to watch this area, and my nephew was about 60 yards away from me. We were both facing east, watching several game trails that led to the water. Behind us was a small clearing about 20 yards wide and mature Douglas fir beyond that. It was very quiet. Only a very soft breath of air felt on my face. From behind us, we kept hearing twigs snap and general movement in the trees, but when a branch snapped, this sounded like a gunshot. My nephew and I both turned to look. Now, facing west, looking into the stand of Douglas firs, with the setting sun steaming through the trees, we could hear something walking around, but only got glimpses of something moving. Then I saw it step from my left to right, moving from one tree to another, covering about 12 feet in a single stride. Ew. I could see the sunlight shimmer off of what looked like reddish hair, and it raised one arm up as it went behind the second tree, and instantly a very loud crack of a tree branch being broken, followed by a loud thud as it hit the ground. That's creepier than shit. I was trying to process what I just saw. I had not noticed my nephew had worked his way to me and was right behind me, and he whispered, "What was that?" He scared the crap out of me, and I whipped my head around and opened my mouth to cuss when the loudest growl that continued into a multiple high-pitched scream hit us. I mean, it hit us. I could feel it on my body, and it was so loud that my ears were ringing. Again, my nephew asked, "What was that?" I simply told him it was time for us to go. I know we covered the distance back to camp in record time, and my nephew's friend already had a castaway's signal fire going. My nephew is now an Oregon State Trooper working in the Fish and Game Division. Fast forward a few years and I was hunting in far eastern Oregon overlooking the breaks of Idaho. I was there with my girlfriend's dad, grandpa, and 2 brothers. An elk whistled, and one of the brothers asked me if it was Bigfoot. They loved to give me hell for being a knower. It wasn't an hour later that the same growl that turned into a scream came up from deep in the Finger Canyon that we camped on top of. Grandpa said, "You know what that was, don't you, Matt?" I simply said, "Yes, I do." Grandpa said, "Well, boys, now you know what a Bigfoot sounds like, and I'm going to bed." I asked Grandpa how he knew what was making that scream. He told me when he first bought his little farm, he built a big chicken coop. One night, all hell broke loose, so he grabbed his shotgun and light and went out to the back door. He said all I could see from the nipples up, this thing next to his coop. His coop was 7 feet tall. He said he backed into the house and went to bed. His wife was yelling at him to get back out there when that thing screamed, and he told his wife to shut up and go to sleep. The next morning, every one of his birds had been pulled apart, but nothing seemed to be taken. Thanks for what you do. Sincerely, Matt Noss. Knoss? Noss. Hope I didn't butcher your last name, man. What's up with the chicken hate? You gotta wonder, right? I don't get it, man. I do not. There's a lot of things that go down that is just very, very confusing. Even if it was a human, let's just say it was a human doing it. Why would a human being sneak into your yard in the dark, yank all your chickens into a few pieces and throw them on the ground and not stop till every single one of them was dead? And then leave. Right? It just doesn't make sense. Why do they do it? Why would you tear somebody's dog in half and whip it out the door of their house and have it lump up on the porch? I don't get it. Why? Why do they not go into the house and kill every human, pull them apart, and throw them on the floor? Why don't they grab a human in the backyard, pull them in half, and throw them at the house so they lump up on the porch? How come? A lot of people are going to be screaming out, because they can't. There's a law. There's rules. Yeah. I don't know. I hope I find out. Those rules definitely don't apply to humans, right? Hating chickens just doesn't make sense, man. Doesn't make sense. That's a very confusing part of it. And it's happened so many times. Same with rabbits. Well, I remember reading some encounters of a couple of these beings. Footprints went into the rabbit pen, the box, whatever, opened up the lid and closed it properly, and all they found was the rabbits' heads in the tracks on the way out of the driveway of the house. So I guess they like eating rabbits. I don't know what they got against chickens. I can't wait to find out. I know we're going to find out everything. I got a feeling in my gut. It says as long as we don't stop, we're going to find it all out, right? All right. See if I can still pull this off. I can see shit. I can see great. It's just from there reading is getting fuzzy for me. My strange story. It was during the solar eclipse 2017. Our family wanted to see the eclipse in the best area along its path nearest to where we live. Those places were Pocatello, Idaho, and Newport Beach, Oregon. Most of our family went to Oregon. On the way there, from Salt Lake City to Newport Beach, one of our truck's transmissions broke just east, outside of Toledo, Oregon, on Highway 20. We called for a tow truck. We're very blessed to get help right away and find a repair shop who found a used transmission in Eugene. It would take 3 days for the repair and a good chunk of change. The problem was, now we realized that because of how popular the eclipse was, and thousands of people came to town to watch, there was nowhere to stay. Our mechanic suggested a small, out-of-the-way campground that was first come, first serve. With that miraculous news, we packed all our gear into the truck and drove there within a few minutes. It was called Elk City Park near Big Elk River. It was a quiet place, and next to us was camping a couple from Germany who had just finished a year-long camping trip to the USA and were staying to watch the eclipse and then go back to Germany. We felt so grateful to have a place to stay for 3 days. We set up camp, met the camp host, who was in a trailer, and had an uneventful evening. That night, That night, though, was much different. Those of us in the tent were startled awake around 2 a.m. by what sounded like a train out of control with its brakes in lock position screeching, and the sound started across the river opposite our camp. Then, that continued suddenly near the road not far from our tent was the most blood-curdling scream that made us all stop thinking and just exist in terror. It was so loud. We looked all around to see what was beside us, but we saw nothing. There were no other sounds except those screams and screeches. It kept screaming with short breaks in between, but continued for hours. At one point, we heard loud cracking sounds in the woods right beside the river, like trees were falling and branches violently rustling. It was like being in a nightmare for what seemed like eternity. Of course, we had not slept. Don't know what that was. Where was I? Of course, we had not slept until after it stopped around 5 a.m., and then we were so shook up it was hard to sleep. We thought we were under attack by something. When the beautiful sun came up, we felt better and asked my brother-in-law, who slept in the truck cab, if he heard the screaming, and if he was awake all night too. To our utter surprise, he heard nothing, and me, and four of my children, my sister and two of her children, went to ask two other camps if they heard the screaming. The German couple in a tent next to our camp heard nothing, but they said the night before we arrived they heard what sounded like a huge scuffle in the trees, falling down in the forest by the river at night that scared them. They thought it was a bear, or our camp host in his trailer heard nothing. We were very scared and perplexed indeed. How could such a loud screaming not be heard? We really wanted to go home, and we knew we had to stay another night, since all the inns were full and my truck was still getting fixed. So we set up camp for the night to be ready for an attack. I had a weapon and a light for everyone old enough to handle it. My brother-in-law thought we were being silly, so I said, "Let my sister sleep in the cab and you sleep in the lounge chair," and he agreed. To our great terrified dismay, it started again around 2 a.m. This time, my brother-in-law jumped out of his lawn chair to run to the truck cab, but his jacket drawstring got stuck in a chair and he struggled to get free of the folding chair. He was terrified, so was I. I was in the bed of the truck with my weapon and light, and I thought my brother-in-law was done for, even though I shone my light everywhere but saw nothing, just the blood-curdling loud screams getting closer and closer. We barely had courage to muster and utter to each other. I asked my kids if they were okay. Their shaky voices uttered yes. My brother-in-law jumped into the cab and stayed there all night. I was frozen with fear. My sister was frozen with fear. But even though the creature was close and continued the screams, my sister and I eventually, after maybe 30 minutes in the event, both ran to the tent to keep our kids safe. It continued for a couple more hours and stopped to our brains. It continued for a couple more hours and stopped to our brains and nervous system's relief. For the strangest reason, we felt safer in the tent. It's not a funny one. Isn't that funny how that works for so many people? We waited for sunrise, packed up, and left to get out of there, and waited at Newport Beach till my truck was fixed. To this day, we really don't know what the creature was, but my brother-in-law grew up in the Illinois country and said that screaming was like nothing he'd ever heard before. Even cougars mating didn't compare. After hearing the stories of others hearing blood-curdling screams and seeing these strange creatures, I believe wholeheartedly it was a forest creature like the Sasquatch, although most people I tell don't believe it was such a creature. My nephew believes me. He said he saw one briefly in his backyard in Colorado. So, thank you for letting me tell my story. Now, the thanks goes to you for sharing it. And like we've all said to each other before, you know what it was. The second you start emailing us here, you already know what it was. I can't see nothing. Ugh, stupid glasses. I don't think, apparently I don't qualify for the laser surgery. Straightens out your eyesight apparently, but whatever. I can still see game like crazy. Just reading's a little difficult. I can hear some equipment working just over the bank, probably logging or something. But anyways, I gotta get home. Gotta get the truck packed. And then it's out to the coast. And maybe I can actually stop and see if I can hook Sarah into her first steelhead. That would be so wicked. Oh yeah, I'm gonna stop up here and show you guys that big slough, alright? And then after that, it's out of here time. But there will be more voices heard loaded up for tomorrow, I'll guarantee it. We'll see you shortly. Fresh truck tracks in this road, just mine. Check this out. Actually, I'm gonna walk out there. Sec. There we go, a little hidden oasis here. Those mountains right up there above the Sprout Lake, that's where those people heard those screams from those mountain faces there. Screaming from one side to this side of the valley, back and forth in the night. Be interesting to float around out here on a floaty all night long in the dead silence and have a good long listen, wouldn't it? if you're inclined and curious enough. I'll pass. There you go. We're out of here.